The key turned in the lock, but something was wrong. Smoke was rising from the chimney of a house that should have been empty. Ethan's heart pounded as he stared at the rundown property he'd bought 2 weeks ago with his last $18,000. Someone was inside. Someone was living in his house. 2 weeks earlier, Ethan had stood in this same spot with his 6-year-old daughter Lucy, both of them staring at peeling paint and broken windows. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. After Sarah died, after the medical bills swallowed everything they had, after losing their apartment in the city, this forgotten house in the middle of nowhere was supposed to be their fresh start, their second chance. "Daddy, can we paint my room pink?" Lucy had asked, her small hand gripping his. "Whatever color you want, sweetheart," he'd promised, his voice thick with hope he didn't quite feel. He'd left the house that day to handle paperwork, arrange for Lucy to finish her school semester, pack their belongings. 2 weeks. That's all it had been. 2 weeks of planning, of imagining Lucy running through those empty rooms, of picturing himself fixing broken floorboards while she played in the overgrown backyard. Now, as his truck rolled to a stop in the gravel driveway, Ethan felt his stomach drop. The windows he remembered being dark and lifeless now glowed with warm light. Curtains he definitely hadn't hung swayed gently in the evening breeze. "Daddy, someone's home," Lucy said from the passenger seat, her voice small and confused. Ethan's jaw tightened. "Stay in the truck, Lucy. But stay here." His voice came out sharper than he intended, and he immediately regretted it when he saw her flinch. He softened his tone. "Just for a minute, okay? Let me see what's going on." His boots crunched on the gravel as he approached the front door. Through the window, he could see movement, shadows passing back and forth. His house, his property. The deed was in his glove compartment, signed and notarized. This wasn't a mistake. He knocked. Hard. The movement inside stopped. Silence stretched for several seconds before he heard footsteps approaching. The door opened slowly, and a young woman appeared in the gap. She couldn't have been more than 25, with tired eyes and hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Her face went white when she saw him. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "You can start by explaining why you're in my house," Ethan said, keeping his voice level despite the anger rising in his chest. The woman's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh God, you're the one who bought it." "That's right, I bought it. 2 weeks ago, with the last money I had to my name." He stepped closer, and she backed up instinctively. "So I'll ask again, what are you doing here?" "Jenna, who is it?" A male voice called from inside. A man appeared behind her, tall and thin, with a beard that needed trimming and clothes that had seen better days. His expression shifted from curiosity to dread as he took in the scene. "Kyle," the woman, Jenna said, her voice shaking. "He's the owner." Kyle's face crumpled. No. We checked. The listing said it was abandoned, foreclosed. You thought wrong." Ethan cut him off. His hands were trembling now, adrenaline mixing with exhaustion and disappointment. "I need you both out, now." "Please," Jenna said, tears forming in her eyes. "Please just let us explain." "There's nothing to explain. This is private property. My property." "You're trespassing." "We know," Kyle said quickly, stepping forward with his hands raised. "We know, and we're sorry. We never meant we didn't know someone actually bought it. We've been looking at abandoned properties for weeks, trying to find somewhere, anywhere." "Not my problem," Ethan said, pulling out his phone. "I'm calling the police." "No," Jenna's voice cracked. "Please don't. We'll leave. We'll go right now. Just don't call the police. Please." Something in her desperation made Ethan pause. He looked past them into what should have been his living room. The floors had been swept. The debris he remembered piled in the corners was gone. Through the doorway to the kitchen, he could see dishes drying on a rack, a small camping stove set up on the counter. "How long have you been here?" he asked. Jenna and Kyle exchanged a glance. 2 weeks, Kyle admitted. "The day after you bought it, probably. We didn't know. I swear we didn't know. 2 weeks. The entire time he'd been planning, packing, promising Lucy that everything would be okay. These strangers had been living in their house. Ethan's finger hovered over the emergency call button. "Daddy?" Lucy's voice came from behind him. She'd gotten out of the truck despite his instructions, her small frame appearing at his side. "Why are those people in our house?" Jenna's face transformed when she saw Lucy. Something soft and painful crossed her features. "You have a daughter," she whispered. "This is none of your business," Ethan said, putting his arm around Lucy's shoulders. "We cleaned," Jenna said suddenly, desperately. "We've been cleaning and fixing things. We replaced the broken pane in the kitchen window. We cleared out all the old junk from the basement. We even fixed the front step it was rotting through. We didn't just squat here. We tried to make it better." "Why?" Ethan demanded. "Why this house? Why my house?" Kyle's shoulders sagged. "Because we were out of options. Jenna lost her job 3 months ago. I've got medical issues that make it impossible to find steady work. We lost our apartment, stayed with friends until we wore out our welcome, lived in our car for 2 weeks before it died. We were desperate. We saw the listing online, saw it was foreclosed and abandoned, and we thought maybe we could stay here until we got back on our feet. We've been applying for jobs every day," Jenna added. "I've got 3 interviews next week. We're trying. We're really trying." Ethan looked at them, really looked. Their clothes were worn but clean. They looked exhausted, scared, but not dangerous. Just desperate. Just broken. Like him. But he had Lucy to think about. Lucy, who was already clinging to his leg, who'd been through so much loss already. He couldn't risk her safety on strangers, no matter how sympathetic their story. "I need you out," he said quietly. "Tonight. Where will we go?" Jenna's voice was barely audible. "I don't know, but this is my house. I paid for it. I need it for my daughter." Kyle nodded slowly, defeat written across his face. "Okay. Yeah, we understand. Just give us an hour to pack our things?" Ethan was about to agree when Lucy tugged on his sleeve. "Daddy, are they homeless?" "Lucy, not now. But are they?" She looked up at him with those wide brown eyes that were so much like Sarah's. "Like the people Mom used to give food to?" Sarah. She would have known what to do. She always knew what to do. She'd volunteer at the shelter every Thanksgiving, buy extra groceries to hand out to people on the street, see the humanity in everyone. What would she say if she were here? Ethan closed his eyes. "Everyone just stop. Give me a minute to think." The silence that followed was suffocating. Lucy pressed closer to his side. Jenna wiped tears from her cheeks. Kyle stood frozen, waiting for judgment. And Ethan stood there, caught between protecting his daughter and remembering who he used to be, who Sarah had helped him be. Finally, he spoke. "Come outside, all of you. We're going to talk, and then I'm going to decide what happens next." They sat in the overgrown backyard as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the weeds and wildflowers that had taken over what might have once been a garden. Lucy had found a stick and was drawing patterns in the dirt, humming softly to herself while the adults talked in low voices nearby. Ethan perched on the edge of an old stone bench, arms crossed, watching Jenna and Kyle carefully. They sat on the ground across from him, looking like defendants awaiting a verdict. "Tell me everything," Ethan said. "From the beginning." Jenna glanced at Kyle, who nodded. She took a shaky breath. "I worked as an administrative assistant at a marketing firm in the city. Nothing fancy, but it paid the bills. Then the company downsized. Last in, first out." She laughed bitterly. "I'd been there 11 months. 1 more month, and I would have qualified for unemployment benefits. We tried to make it work on just my income," Kyle continued. "I was doing freelance graphic design, but then I started having seizures, epilepsy. Doctors ran 1,000,000 tests, put me on medication that made me so foggy I couldn't work. We burned through our savings paying for medical bills and rent. The eviction notice came 6 weeks ago," Jenna said quietly. "We stayed with my sister for 2 weeks, but she's got 3 kids in a 2-bedroom apartment. There just wasn't room. Then we tried Kyle's brother, but he's got his own problems," Kyle finished. "Addiction issues. Wasn't safe for Jenna to be there. So we lived in our car, a 2004 Honda Civic with a broken heater and a trunk that didn't close right." Ethan listened, his anger slowly transforming into something more complicated, something that felt uncomfortably like recognition. "We were parked outside a library one day. using their Wi-Fi to apply for jobs. Jenna continued. That's when Kyle found the listing for this place. It said foreclosed, abandoned for 2 years, no current owner listed. We drove out here and saw it was empty. The doors were unlocked. So we came inside, just to sleep somewhere that wasn't the car. Just for 1 night. But 1 night became 2, Kyle said, and then a week. We kept telling ourselves we'd leave as soon as we found something else, but everywhere we looked wanted first. Month, last month, and a security deposit. We barely had enough money for food. So you just decided to live here, Ethan said, his voice flat. We didn't just live here, Jenna said defensively. We worked, every single day. This place was a disaster when we found it. Broken glass everywhere, old furniture rotting in the corners, mold growing in the bathroom. We cleaned everything. We made repairs with whatever materials we could find or afford. We were trying to earn our keep, even if no one was around to see it. Lucy wandered over, holding a dandelion. She offered it to Jenna with a shy smile. Jenna took it gently, her eyes welling up again. Thank you, sweetheart, she whispered. It's beautiful. Do you have any kids? Lucy asked. Jenna's face crumpled. No, honey, we don't. Did you want some? Lucy, Ethan said sharply. That's enough questions. But Jenna shook her head. It's okay. She looked at Lucy with such tenderness it made Ethan's chest ache. We did want kids. We were trying for a baby when everything fell apart. But maybe it's good we don't have any right now. We can barely take care of ourselves. Lucy frowned, processing this. Then she turned to Ethan. Daddy, can't they stay? Just for a little while? Lucy, it's not that simple. Why not? We stayed with Aunt Marie after Mommy died. She helped us. Maybe we can help them. Ethan's throat tightened. Aunt Marie had indeed let them stay in her garage apartment for 3 months while he got his bearings after Sarah's death. Without her, they would have been homeless too. Your daughter is very kind, Kyle said softly. She gets that from you, I'm guessing. She gets it from her mother, Ethan replied. He looked at Lucy, then back at the couple. Here's what I'm thinking, and I might regret this, but... He paused, weighing his words carefully. You can stay, temporarily. But there are conditions. Jenna and Kyle both sat up straighter, hope flickering in their eyes. You work with me to fix this place up, Ethan continued. Real work. The roof needs patching, the plumbing is questionable, the electrical system probably isn't up to code. We make this house livable for everyone. You pull your weight, you respect boundaries, and you actively look for jobs and your own place. This is not permanent. This is me giving you time to get back on your feet. Understood? Yes, Jenna said immediately. Yes, absolutely. We'll work as hard as you need us to. And if anything happens, if I feel like Lucy is unsafe, if you break my trust in any way, you're gone. No second chances. We understand, Kyle said. Thank you. Seriously, thank you. You don't know what this means. Ethan held up a hand. Don't thank me yet. This could be a disaster. But Lucy's right, someone helped us when we needed it. Maybe it's time to pass that forward. They spent the rest of the evening dividing up the space. Ethan and Lucy would take the 2 bedrooms upstairs, while Jenna and Kyle would keep the small room on the first floor they'd already been using. They'd share the kitchen and bathroom, work together on repairs, and maintain a schedule so they weren't constantly in each other's way. That first night, after Lucy was asleep in her new room unpainted, but hers, Ethan lay awake on a sleeping bag on the bare floor of the master bedroom. Through the thin walls, he could hear Jenna and Kyle talking in low voices downstairs. Do you think he'll really let us stay? Jenna's voice drifted up. I don't know. Maybe. He seems like a good guy. Sad, though. Did you see how he looked when his daughter mentioned her mom? She died. Has to be recent. Yeah. Poor kid. Poor guy. Ethan closed his eyes, Sarah's face appearing in his mind. What would she think of this decision? Would she be proud, or would she think he was being reckless with Lucy's safety? The next morning, work began in earnest. Ethan woke early and found Kyle already outside, examining the roof with a pair of binoculars they must have owned. It's worse than I thought, Kyle called down. There are at least 3 spots where water's getting in. We need to patch them before the next rain, or you're going to have serious problems. Great, Ethan muttered. Add it to the list. Over breakfast eggs and toast that Jenna insisted on cooking for everyone, they made a plan. Kyle would work on the roof with Ethan. Jenna would tackle the bathroom, which desperately needed scrubbing and new caulking. Lucy would help Jenna with the easier tasks, keeping her occupied and away from the more dangerous repairs. The work was hard and slow. Ethan's muscles ached from climbing up and down the ladder, passing shingles and tools to Kyle. But there was something almost meditative about it. The simple physical labor, the clear goal, the measurable progress. "You're pretty good at this," Ethan said, watching Kyle expertly nail down a new shingle. "My dad was a contractor, taught me the basics growing up. I never wanted to do it professionally, but the skills stuck." Kyle paused, hammer in midair. "I should have stuck with it, honestly. Maybe I'd be in a better place now." "Graphic design not working out?" Kyle laughed darkly. "It was, until my brain decided to misfire randomly. Hard to meet deadlines when you might have a seizure at any moment. Clients don't like that. And the medication," he tapped his temple, "makes everything fuzzy, like thinking through fog." They worked in silence for a while before Kyle spoke again. "Can I ask you something? About your wife?" Ethan's hands stilled. "No." "What about her? How long has it been?" "Since she passed. 8 months. Cancer. Started in her lungs, spread everywhere before we even knew what was happening." The words came out mechanical, rehearsed from too many sympathetic conversations. 6 weeks from diagnosis to death. "I'm sorry, man. That's brutal." "Yeah." Ethan hammered a nail harder than necessary. "It was." "Is that why you bought this place? Fresh start?" "Something like that. We couldn't afford the city anymore. Medical bills took everything. I thought maybe out here, somewhere quiet, we could rebuild. Give Lucy a normal childhood again." He laughed bitterly. "Didn't expect to find squatters in my fresh start. For what it's worth, I'm grateful you didn't call the cops. We'd probably be in jail right now." "The night's still young," Ethan said, but there was no heat in it. Inside, Jenna and Lucy were forming their own unlikely bond. Lucy chattered constantly while they cleaned, telling Jenna about her school, her friends, her mother. "Mommy used to make the best pancakes," Lucy said, scrubbing at a stubborn stain on the bathroom tile. "With chocolate chips in them. Daddy tries, but they're always lumpy." "Maybe I can show him my recipe," Jenna offered. "I used to work at a diner in college. I know a few tricks." "Really?" Lucy's face lit up. "Can we make them tomorrow? If your dad says it's okay." Lucy was quiet for a moment, then asked, "Do you miss having a home?" Jenna's hand froze on the sponge. "Yeah, sweetie, I really do. We didn't have a home for a while either. After Mommy died, we stayed with different people. Daddy was sad all the time." Lucy looked up at Jenna with those two wise eyes. "Are you sad?" "Sometimes, but your daddy is giving us a chance to not be sad anymore. That's a really special thing." By the end of the week, the house was starting to look almost livable. The roof was patched, the bathroom sparkled, and they'd even managed to clear out the overgrown garden enough to reveal a small patio underneath. But tensions were rising too. Ethan was frustrated by how slowly things were progressing. Every repair revealed 2 more problems. The house was a money pit, and his savings were dwindling faster than he'd anticipated. One evening, he found Kyle in the kitchen, cooking dinner on their camping stove. The smell of garlic and herbs filled the air. "Where'd you get the ingredients?" Ethan asked, more sharply than he intended. Kyle looked up, defensive. "Jenna and I pooled what money we had left. Thought we'd contribute to meals since you're letting us stay." "I didn't ask you to do that." "We know, but we wanted to. We're not freeloaders, Ethan." "I never said you were. You didn't have to." Kyle turned back to the stove, stirring aggressively. "Look, I get it. You don't trust us. You think we're going to steal from you or hurt Lucy or something. But we're trying here. We're trying really damn hard." Ethan wanted to argue, but he couldn't. Because Kyle was right, he didn't fully trust them. He watched them constantly, checked that his valuables were still where he'd left them, kept Lucy close whenever they were around. It was exhausting, this constant vigilance. "I'm sorry," he said finally. "This is just new for me. I'm not used to depending on people." "Yeah, well, neither are we." Kyle's voice softened. "But sometimes you don't have a choice." That night, After dinner, which was actually delicious, they all sat on the patio together. Someone had found an old radio in the basement, and music played softly in the background. Lucy was teaching Jenna some dance moves, both of them giggling as they spun in circles. Ethan watched them, something tight in his chest loosening slightly. Maybe this could work. Maybe this strange, temporary family they'd formed could actually be something good. Then Kyle's phone rang. He answered, his face going pale as he listened. "When? Are you sure?" Okay, I'll tell her." He hung up and looked at Jenna with devastated eyes. "That was your sister. Your mum's in the hospital. Heart attack. They don't know if she's going to make it." The music kept playing, but everything else stopped. Jenna's face crumpled, and she sank to the ground, Lucy catching her hand in confusion and concern. "We have to go," Jenna whispered. "We have to go right now." "How?" Kyle asked helplessly. "We don't have a car. We don't have money for a bus ticket. The hospital is 4 hours away." They both looked at Ethan. The question hung unspoken in the air. Ethan stood up slowly, keys already in his hand. "I'll drive you." "Come on." The highway stretched endlessly under the glow of streetlights, broken white lines flickering past like a heartbeat. Ethan gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white, while Jenna sat in the passenger seat crying quietly into her hands. Kyle was in the back with Lucy, who'd fallen asleep against the window, her small body rising and falling with each breath. "She just had a checkup last month," Jenna said for the third time, her voice broken. "They said she was fine. How does this happen?" "Hearts are unpredictable," Ethan said softly. "Trust me, I know." They'd been driving for 2 hours when Kyle's phone rang again. Jenna grabbed it before the second ring, her hands shaking so badly she almost dropped it. "Hello?" "Yes, this is her daughter." "What? Oh, thank God. Thank God." She pressed her hand over her mouth, fresh tears streaming down her face. "Can we see her?" "Okay. Yes. We'll be there soon." She hung up and turned to Ethan and Kyle, her face a mixture of relief and exhaustion. "She's stable. They got her into surgery in time. She's going to be okay." Kyle reached forward from the back seat and squeezed her shoulder. Ethan felt something in his own chest unclench, a tightness he hadn't even realized was there. They arrived at the hospital just after midnight. Ethan waited in the parking lot with Lucy while Jenna and Kyle went inside. He'd carried his sleeping daughter from the truck to a bench outside the emergency room entrance, where she curled up with her head in his lap. An hour passed, then 2. Ethan was starting to doze off himself when Jenna and Kyle emerged, looking drained but lighter somehow. "She's asking for breakfast already," Jenna said with a watery laugh. "That's how I know she's going to be fine. Mom never could. Stand, hospital food." "That's good," Ethan said, standing carefully so as not to wake Lucy. "That's really good." "We can't thank you enough," Kyle said, "if you hadn't driven us." "Don't," Ethan interrupted. "Just don't. Let's get back home." The word slipped out before he could stop it. Home. Not the house or my place. Home. For all of them. They drove back in comfortable silence, arriving just as the sun was beginning to rise. Lucy woke up as Ethan carried her inside, blinking sleepily. "Is the lady's mommy okay?" she asked. "Yeah, sweetheart. She's okay." "Good. I prayed for her." Ethan kissed the top of her head, his throat tight. "I'm sure that helped." The next few days fell into a new rhythm. Jenna was distracted, calling the hospital every few hours to check on her mother, but she still worked alongside them on the house. They tackled the kitchen next, stripping away old wallpaper and discovering surprisingly beautiful wood paneling underneath. "Look at this," Kyle said, running his hand over the grain. "This is solid oak. Someone put a lot of love into this house once. Maybe we can put some love back into it," Lucy said matter-of-factly, making all 3 adults smile. They were making real progress. The house was starting to feel less like a construction site and more like a home. Ethan found himself relaxing around Jenna and Kyle, trusting them with small things at first, watching Lucy while he ran to the hardware store, leaving his wallet on the counter, sharing stories over dinner. Then came the morning that changed everything. Ethan woke to the sound of rushing water, not the gentle sound of someone showering or running the sink. This was different, urgent, wrong. He bolted out of bed and ran downstairs to find water pouring through the kitchen ceiling. cascading onto the floor they'd just refinished. Kyle was already there in his pajamas, a bucket in each hand, trying futilely to catch the deluge. The pipe burst. Kyle shouted over the pajamas. Noise. The main water line. I can't find the shut-off valve. Ethan raced to the basement, his heart pounding. Water was everywhere, pooling on the concrete floor, seeping into boxes of his belongings that he'd stored down here. He found the valve and wrenched it closed, the flow finally stopping. When he came back upstairs, the damage was undeniable. The ceiling was sagging, drywall saturated and starting to crack. Water covered the floor, seeping into the new baseboards they'd installed just 3 days ago. All that work, all that money, gone. Ethan, Jenna said carefully, standing in the doorway with Lucy. We can fix this. Can we? His voice came out harsh, angry. Can we really? Because I'm starting to think this whole thing was a mistake. This house, this arrangement, all of it. Lucy started to cry. Jenna put a protective arm around her shoulders. You don't mean that, Kyle said quietly. Don't I? Ethan gestured at the destruction around them. I spent my last $18,000 on this place. $18,000 that was supposed to give us stability, give us a future. Instead, I'm bleeding money on repairs, housing strangers, and now this. The kitchen is destroyed. The basement is flooded, and I have maybe $3,000 left to my name. So that's it. Kyle's voice had an edge now, too. One setback and you're done. You're going to kick us out. Maybe I should have kicked you out from the start. Maybe none of this would have happened if I'd just called the cops like I was supposed to. Daddy, stop. Lucy pulled away from Jenna and ran to him, wrapping her arms around his waist. Stop being mean. Ethan looked down at his daughter's tear-stained face and felt shame wash over him. But the anger was still there too, hot and desperate. Lucy, go upstairs, he said, his voice softer but firm. No, Lucy. Mommy wouldn't yell at them. Mommy would help. The words hit him like a physical blow. Lucy ran upstairs, her footsteps pounding on the stairs, and then a door slammed. Silence filled the kitchen except for the steady drip of water from the ruined ceiling. She's right, Jenna said quietly. About your wife. I didn't know her, but Lucy talks about her all the time, about how kind she was, how she always helped people. Don't, Ethan said, his voice breaking. Don't talk about Sarah. Someone needs to. Jenna stepped closer, her shoes squelching in the wet floor. Because I think you're so scared of making the wrong choice that you're about to make the worst one. You're about to push away people who care about you because things got hard. You don't care about me. You need me. There's a difference. Is there? Kyle asked. Because from where I'm standing, we've been living together, eating together, working together for 2 weeks. We drove through the night because your daughter was worried about Jenna's mom. You drove us 4 hours because you knew we needed help. That sounds like caring to me. Ethan sat down heavily on the wet floor, his back against the cabinets. He put his head in his hands. I can't do this, he whispered. I can't keep failing. Sarah would know what to do. She always knew what to do. But I'm drowning here. Jenna and Kyle exchanged a look. Then they both sat down on the floor next to him, water seeping into their clothes. You're not failing, Jenna said. You're trying. There's a difference. The house is falling apart, so we'll fix it. Again. Kyle gestured at the ceiling. I know how to patch drywall. Jenna's dad was a plumber before he retired. She knows about pipes. We can handle this. I can't pay you. We're not asking you to. You gave us a place to stay when we had nowhere else to go. You drove us 4 hours in the middle of the night for a woman you'd never met. You think we're keeping score? Ethan looked at them, really looked at them. At Jenna's determined expression and Kyle's steady gaze. At the way they'd positioned themselves on either side of him, like bookends, like support. I'm sorry, he said finally. I'm sorry, I yelled. I'm sorry I said those things. I got scared. We know, Jenna said. We're scared too, every single day, but we're less scared together. They sat there for a long moment, 3 broken people on a wet floor in a damaged kitchen, and somehow it felt like the most solid ground Ethan had stood on in months. Okay, he said. Okay, let's fix this. But first, I need to apologize to Lucy. He found her in her room, curled up on her sleeping bag with her face buried in a stuffed rabbit that had been Sarah's childhood toy. "Lucy Bug," he said softly from the doorway. "Can I come in?" She didn't answer, but she didn't tell him to go away either. He sat down next to her and pulled her into his lap. "I'm sorry," he said. "I shouldn't have yelled. I was angry about the house, but I took it out on people who didn't deserve it." "They're nice," Lucy said, her voice muffled, against his chest. "They're helping us. Why were you so mean?" "Because I'm scared. I'm scared I'm making bad choices. I'm scared I'm going to mess up and something bad will happen to you. I'm scared I can't do this without Mommy." Lucy pulled back and looked at him with those serious brown eyes. "But you're not without Mommy. She's still here." She put her small hand over his heart. "And you're not without me, or Jenna, or Kyle. You're not alone, Daddy." Ethan felt tears streaming down his face. When had his 6-year-old gotten so wise? "You're right. You're absolutely right. So you won't make them leave?" "No, baby. I won't make them leave." They spent the rest of the day cleaning up the flood damage. Kyle and Jenna worked tirelessly, showing Ethan how to strip the damaged drywall, dry out the studs, treat for mold before it could start. It was exhausting, dirty work, but there was something almost therapeutic about it. Every piece of ruined material they removed was making space for something new. By evening, the worst of it was cleared away. They ordered pizza, a rare extravagance, and sat on the patio eating straight from the box. "I got a call back today," Jenna said suddenly, "from one of the places I interviewed, the office manager position. They want me to start next week." Everyone froze. This was it, the moment they'd all known was coming, but hadn't wanted to think about. "That's amazing," Ethan said, and meant it. "Congratulations. It doesn't pay a lot," Jenna continued, "and we'll need to save up for a deposit on a place, but it's a start." "You can stay here," Ethan said, "as long as you need, until you have enough saved. No rush." Kyle looked at him, surprised. "You mean that?" "Yeah, I do. This arrangement, it's working. I don't want to mess with it until we have to." "What if we didn't have to?" Jenna asked quietly. "What if we made this permanent? Not like this exactly, but what if we found a way to make it work long-term?" Ethan considered this. The house was big enough. With the repairs they'd been making, it was starting to feel like a real home, and he couldn't deny that having help, having company had made everything easier. Lucy was happier than she'd been since Sarah died, and he was starting to remember what it felt like to not be alone. "Let's take it one day at a time," he said finally, "but I'm not opposed to the idea." Lucy threw her arms around both Jenna and Kyle. "You're staying. You're really staying." "For now, at least," Kyle said, ruffling her hair. "Your dad's not getting rid of us that easily." Over the next 2 weeks, they fell into a comfortable routine. Jenna started her new job and came home with stories about her co-workers and small victories. Kyle's medication was adjusted, and his seizures became less frequent. He picked up some freelance work again, slowly rebuilding his portfolio. Ethan found a part-time job at the local hardware store, using his employee discount to get materials for the house at cost. They finished the kitchen, installed proper plumbing, even painted Lucy's room the pink she'd been dreaming about. The house was transforming, and so were they. One evening, Ethan found himself sitting on the patio alone, watching the sun set over the overgrown field behind the house. He heard footsteps and turned to find Jenna holding 2 mugs of coffee. "Mind if I join you?" she asked. "Please." They sat in comfortable silence for a while before Jenna spoke. "I never properly thanked you. For everything. For not calling the police that first night. For driving us to the hospital. For giving us a chance when you had every reason not to." "You've thanked me plenty," Ethan said. "No, I mean it. You saved our lives. Kyle and I, we were at the end of our rope. We'd talked about just giving up. And then you showed up, and instead of kicking us out, you gave us hope again." Ethan swallowed hard. "You saved mine too, you know. Lucy and I, we were just existing. Going through the motions. But having you here, building something together, it reminded me that life can still be good. Different, but good." "Sarah would be proud of you," Jenna said softly. "I don't know about that. I almost screwed this whole thing up. But you didn't. That's what matters." Lucy came bursting out the back door, Kyle following behind her with a smile. "Daddy, Kyle taught me how to make paper airplanes. Look! She threw one into the air, and it sailed across the patio before landing in the grass. That's amazing, sweetheart. Can we have a paper airplane contest tomorrow? All of us? Sure, Ethan said, pulling her onto his lap. All of us. He looked around at this strange little family they'd created, born out of desperation and circumstance, but held together by something stronger. Choice. They were choosing each other, every single day. The house still needed work. There were electrical issues to address, windows to replace, a garden to reclaim. But they had time. They had each other. And for the first time since Sarah died, Ethan felt something that had been missing for so long. He felt home. 3 months later, the house was unrecognizable. Fresh paint covered the exterior. The garden bloomed with vegetables they'd planted together, and the porch had a swing where Lucy liked to read on sunny afternoons. Jenna and Kyle had saved enough for their own place, but when they'd brought it up, Lucy had cried. Ethan had surprised himself by admitting he didn't want them to go either. So they'd worked out a new arrangement. Jenna and Kyle would pay rent, modest but fair, and they'd continue sharing the house and responsibilities. It wasn't conventional, but it worked. One Saturday morning, Ethan woke to the smell of pancakes, real pancakes, made from Jenna's secret recipe. He came downstairs to find the kitchen full of laughter. Lucy was helping Kyle flip pancakes while Jenna set the table, and for just a moment, Ethan could almost... I feel Sarah there too, smiling at the family he'd managed to build from the ruins. Morning, sleepyhead, Jenna said. We made your favorite chocolate chip. They're not lumpy this time, Lucy announced proudly. Ethan sat down at the table they'd refinished together, surrounded by people who'd started as strangers and become something more. Something essential. Thank you, he said softly. For what? Kyle asked. For not leaving when I gave you the chance. For staying. For this. Jenna reached across the table and squeezed his hand. Thank you for letting us. After breakfast, they all went outside to work on the final project, building a small memorial garden for Sarah in the corner of the yard. They'd chosen her favorite flowers, installed a bench Ethan had made in the garage, and placed a small stone with her name and dates. Lucy placed a drawing she'd made on the bench, Sarah surrounded by all of them, including Jenna and Kyle. Is it okay that they're in the picture with Mummy? Lucy asked Ethan quietly. He looked at the drawing, at the smiling faces and held hands, and felt his eyes burn with tears. Yeah, Bug. I think Mummy would love that. As they stood there together, in the garden they'd built, in the house they'd saved, Ethan realized something. He'd bought this place hoping for a fresh start, a foundation to rebuild his life. What he'd gotten was so much more than that. He'd gotten a family. Not the one he'd planned for, not the one he'd imagined, but a family nonetheless built from broken pieces, held together by compassion and strengthened by the simple choice to not give up on each other. The house behind them stood solid and warm, smoke rising from the chimney, the windows glowing with light, and Ethan knew that no matter what challenges came next, they would face them together. Because that's what families do. If you've been touched by this story of second chances and unexpected family, we'd love to hear from you. Share your own story of compassion in the comments below. Have you ever helped a stranger or been helped when you needed it most? And if this story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button for Soul Story. We bring you real stories about real people finding hope in the most unexpected places. Like this video if it moved you, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that sometimes the best things in life come from the chances we take on each other. Because at the end of the day, we're all just looking for somewhere to call home.